Welcome to this video about how Regen Farmers Mutual works. Now, our members come in via the Landscape Impact Program, which helps to kind of navigate the buyers, the environment, and the farmers. But it asks the question of what does farm-based landscape planning and landscape planning look like? And you have to think about it at different scales. So the farm level, what's the profitability, the regenerative impact, both economic and environment at a farm level and at a landscape level. So, thinking about opportunities on farm, you're looking at things that will increase productivity and market access and maybe generate a premium. You're looking at ways of using non-productive areas to become productive and generate an income stream. At a landscape level, you're looking at things like, well, how do I increase what I'm doing at my farm so that it's at a bigger scale and gives me better access and lowers my costs through participation with others and opens up new income that I wouldn't otherwise be getting by being part of a larger transaction. And then there's all these other things around improved biosecurity, connectivity and habitat, coordination between yourself and other landholders, and ultimately a better narrative comes out of doing things at a landscape scale than just at a farm scale. So let's dig into farm level planning. And the way that we like to think of things is that on a farm, you divide that farm into land management units. Now, a land management unit might be across a productive area, or a woodland, which might be mixed use for productive and either protection or restoration. There's non-productive areas, and you might think about, well, how can I protect or restore those because they're not currently in production, and it'd be good to get some income from them. And waterways, how do you want to deal with your dams and creeks and rivers and wetlands? So let's look at planning and what sort of decision trees a farmer might have to go through. So we'll look at carbon as an example, and carbon has a high opportunity cost. So where you put your carbon projects is a decision on productive areas or non-productive areas is quite a big decision for most farmers to make, because it can make the difference between, how you gain access to the markets, how you get paid, etc. So on productive areas, you could do insetting or offsetting, but potentially using the SBTI methods, which are lower cost and lower reward in your productive areas, makes some sense. Whereas using the offset and the ERF methods to generate ACCUs, whilst it has a higher cost, it has a higher reward, and that might be totally appropriate in non-productive areas. The other thing that people need as members to think about as they've come in through a landscape impact program is, do they want to stand up as a self-proponent? So in that case, you as the farmer face the regulator, you get the ACCUs, you pay the costs, and you choose what, when, and who you sell to. And recognizing that nobody lives in a vacuum and that there are alternatives, you could use other carbon service providers. Now, these will typically face the regulator or help you to do so. They'll either take a large commission or a base plus commissions, and you will get some flexibility as to who you pay what and when, or rather who you sell to what and when. But that's not guaranteed. When it comes to aggregation by the mutual, we use our lease in order to do that, and we lease from multiple farmers within the region, and then we pay a lease payment to each farmer, but it's our project and therefore we don't require an AFSL. So we face the regulator, you get the lease income, you get financed into the project, and you get upside as we add greater income or price goes beyond projections. Land management unit planning, when it comes to biodiversity, is also really interesting. So at the moment, there's only a few biodiversity markets, and there's the co-benefit of a carbon project, and there's the offsets that permanently protect land, something like what the BCT offer or a private protection consortium might offer. We do know, however, that this market will rapidly emerge, and the sorts of emergent things that we're working with in the mutual include creating biodiversity credits for native woodlands, farm dams, landscape rehydration, native animals and native birds, recognizing that these should be able to, stand alone or stack. Which brings us to the point. So Within a farm and the land management units, you need to understand whether you're taking a credit, be it carbon or biodiversity or whatever, as a standalone management unit with a singular set of activities and a singular income, or whether you're going to go at a farm level and use land management units that are adjacent or aligned to one another. And on each of those, you might have different activities that generate different income streams, but you're looking at multiple areas in a project. For example, you might have a farm dam that then goes onto a woodland that gets, the benefit of being close to that water source. The other opportunity is stacked, which is where you might actually have the same land management unit. So we've got our dam and we've got our woodland, but we go and put a native animal or a native bird unit across both of those. That would be a stacked transaction because the same land management unit now has two activities and two income streams associated with it. You need to take, what you do through the land planning and actually understand the financial implications for yourself. So, if you come in via the Landscape Impact Program, you're going to have to look at the financial implications of joining that landscape transaction, accessing a bigger narrative, accessing a bigger transaction, how working with others improves, the overall transaction. Maybe you can share costs, or maybe you can tap into additional value. And of course, there's aggregation that we offer at a farm level for each of the individual farmers through our lease. And that enables people to smooth their cash flow. Being a lease, it's a far easier commercial relationship than a carbon service agreement, etc. And it allows us to then, acquire the biodiversity and the other opportunities within the landscape and then move them onto on-farm activity and income for each of our leases. So in the future, we won't just be taking farmers through the Landscape Impact Program. We will also allow individuals to join, and that will make all this process a lot easier. But we're not there now. And so the process for us as farmers in the Landscape Impact Program is to really go through our decision trees and understand our land management units and what gives us both an economic and an environmental profit within each particular land management unit.